Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name's Lila, I'm 34, and I've been carrying this secret around in my chest like a stone I can't spit out. It's been gnawing at me, this quiet ache I can't shake, and now I'm finally ready to say it out loud, because holding it in any longer feels like drowning in slow motion. I want to tell you about the moment everything started to unravel, but not the moment I thought it would be. It wasn't a fight, or a grand betrayal. It was a small, ordinary thing that cracked the safe place I once called my relationship. When I met James, everything felt electric and raw, like the air around us was charged with possibility. He was my first real love, the one I thought I'd build my life with. We had this unspoken language, a brush of fingers that sent shivers down my spine, a late-night kiss that tasted of promises and secrets, a way of holding each other that felt like home. I remember the way his arms wrapped around me on the couch, not too tight, just enough to make me feel seen and wanted. Those touches made me feel alive, like I was more than just a body going through the motions. But that was years ago. Now, the kisses have lost their warmth. When he leans in, it feels rehearsed, like I'm a checkbox on a list he's trying to tick off. I still remember the last time we kissed, the soft pressure of his lips that felt more like an obligation than desire. The way his hands lingered, but without that spark, like he was holding on to a memory that no longer existed. And the cuddling. God, the cuddling used to be my refuge. I used to sink into his chest and feel like nothing else mattered. Now, it's a cold landscape, a polite gesture instead of a shared moment. Sometimes, he pulls me close, but it feels less like affection and more like a demand, a silent command that I be there, present and quiet. I lie there stiff, pretending it's enough, but inside I'm drifting further away. There's been a slow, creeping distance between us, the kind you don't notice until you're standing on the edge of it, staring down the void. I've felt myself fading, like a shadow losing shape. I'm there, but only barely. The turning point, the moment I knew something had changed, happened on a rainy Thursday evening. I'd come home early from work, hoping for a chance to reconnect, to find even a flicker of what we once had. I found him sitting on the edge of our bed, scrolling on his phone, the room dim and heavy. I crawled into bed beside him, careful not to disturb the quiet. His arm went around me, but it wasn't the familiar embrace I remembered. It felt stiff and distant. I tried to lean into him, to find that warmth, but it was like pressing against glass. Then I saw it, something on the nightstand caught my eye. A small, crumpled packet of condoms. Not mine. Not the ones we kept together, the ones I knew about. These were new, foreign. And I hadn't expected that. My heart stopped. My breath caught. For a moment, the room spun. That moment, simple and terrible, shattered something inside me. I realized then that what I'd been feeling, the coldness, the distance, the silence, was more than just exhaustion or stress. It was the unraveling of trust, the creeping of secrets into the spaces between us. I didn't say anything that night. I just lay there, eyes wide open, feeling like I was losing myself in a relationship that once promised everything and now whispered only empty echoes. That's when I knew, I was standing at a crossroads. And I didn't know if I could find my way back. James is a software engineer. Logical, methodical, always trying to solve problems with neat solutions, except when it comes to us. The days after I found the condoms were suffocating in their silence. I wanted to scream, to ask the questions burning in my throat, but the words tangled up in fear and confusion. I felt invisible in the home we shared, like a ghost lingering in a space that was no longer ours. One evening, I came home early again, hoping maybe he'd be different, more present, more open. Instead, I found him pacing the living room, his brow furrowed, hands twitching as if trying to work out a code only he could see. When he noticed me, he tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Without a word, he crossed the room and pulled me into a hug. His arms wrapped tightly around my waist, the pressure firm but cold, like he was anchoring himself more than comforting me. I froze at first, not sure whether to pull away or lean in. He kissed my neck, a gesture he often used to break through my walls, but this time, it felt like an automatic move, a rehearsed step in a routine he thought would fix things. "I just want to be close," he said softly, as if that explained everything. But I felt miles away. I wanted more than touch. I needed to hear what was on his mind, to feel him open up his heart before he reached for my body. My chest tightened with frustration, but my voice caught on the edge of shame and doubt. "James. I need to talk. I need to understand." He pulled back slightly, searching my face. "I'm here," he said. "Isn't this enough?" "No," I whispered. "It's not." I remember the way his eyes flickered, a mixture of hurt and confusion, like I'd just told him the rules of a game he didn't know how to play. James isn't the type to express emotions easily. Growing up in a household where feelings were something to be managed quietly, he learned early on that actions speak louder than words. So, for him, physical closeness is love. But for me, it's just the surface, a cover-up for everything left unsaid. We've been circling this gap between us for months, and every attempt he makes to bridge it feels like a bandage over a wound that's deeper than skin. That night, after dinner, he sat beside me on the couch and took my hand in his. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted quietly. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to reach out and pull him closer, but the fear of being hurt again made my fingers tremble as I slipped my hand away. "I don't need fixing, James," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "I need you. I need us." But the words felt hollow between us. Later, in bed, he reached out again. This time, his touch was gentle, tentative, as if he was testing the waters, unsure if I'd pull away or let him in. I closed my eyes, trying to steady the storm inside me, craving something more than the physical. I wanted him to ask me what I was feeling. To say, "Tell me what you need." Instead, his lips brushed my forehead, and he whispered, "I love you," as if that alone could erase the distance. But love isn't just words. It's the messy, uncomfortable conversations we avoid. The moments of vulnerability that leave us raw and exposed. It's the feeling of being truly seen, not just touched. I don't blame James. He's trying in the only way he knows how. But I'm tired of feeling like I'm shouting into a void, hoping someone will hear me. Some nights, I lie awake, wondering if we're just two people passing each other in the dark, close enough to feel the heat, but too far apart to ever truly touch. ChatGPT said, James had just finished washing the dishes when he came up behind me in the kitchen. His arms slid around my waist, warm and familiar, but instead of melting into the moment like I used to, I stiffened. He squeezed gently, trying to draw me in, and I caught the faint scent of his cologne, a little musk, a little cedarwood, the same smell that once made my heart race. "Hey," he murmured into my ear, his breath soft and deliberate. I wanted to turn toward him, to let myself feel the comfort I craved. Instead, I pulled away just enough so he wouldn't notice how my body tensed. "Lila?" His voice held a cautious hope. I forced a small smile. "I'm fine." He didn't press, but when he gave my backside a playful slap, that teasing, affectionate gesture he used to do when we were laughing together, I flinched, heart sinking. The slap echoed differently now, harsh and sudden, like a reminder I wasn't the same woman anymore. Later, when we sat on the couch, James leaned in for a kiss. His lips met mine, but all I felt was an echo of the past. The rhythm was off, the warmth missing. I closed my eyes, willing myself to remember how it felt before, but my mind spun instead with questions. Is this all we have left? Is this the language he thinks is love? When the kiss ended, he brushed my hair behind my ear, waiting for something, a sign, a spark. But I couldn't give it. Not yet. I miss you, he said quietly. So did I. But the truth was tangled deep in the shadows of my heart. I wanted to want him. I wanted to lean into the tenderness he offered, but every touch felt like a question I didn't know how to answer. That night, lying beside him, I felt the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on me. His hand found mine under the sheets, fingers curling gently, trying to connect. I let it rest there, but inside I was pulling away, retreating into a quiet place where no one could reach me. Why does everything have to turn into sex? I thought bitterly. Why can't it just be us, without expectations, without pressure, without the feeling that if I don't respond, something's broken? I wanted to scream that I needed more than skin-deep love. I wanted to tell him that the walls I built weren't just defenses, but cracks begging for light. But instead, I lay still, trapped between desire and doubt, wondering if we could ever find our way back to each other, or if we were already too far gone. Dinner had been quiet for most of the evening, the kind of silence that presses on your chest, heavy and unyielding. James had cooked spaghetti, something simple, something I thought might bring us back to the easy rhythms we used to share. The warm light of the kitchen spilled over the table, the clink of forks against plates the only sound between us. But I couldn't swallow the food, or the tension. I just don't understand, I finally blurted out, voice trembling with exhaustion I'd held in for far too long. How did we get here, James? How did everything become so cold? He looked up, eyebrows knitting together in confusion. What do you mean? I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. I mean us. I mean the way you touch me like I'm a stranger, the way I find things that don't belong in our life, condoms in your bed that aren't ours. The words hit the table like a grenade. James's face shifted, shock, denial, something flickering just beneath the surface I couldn't read. Lila, it's not what you think. But the ache inside me burst loose. I couldn't hold it back anymore. Tears spilled over, unbidden, blurring my vision. Not what I think. Then what is it? Because it feels like you're slipping away from me, piece by piece, like I'm losing you, and I don't know how to stop it. My voice cracked, raw and desperate. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. I was crying openly now, the tears carving trails down my cheeks, my hands clenched tight in my lap. James was silent, eyes wide, as if he'd never seen this version of me before, the woman unraveling at the seams. I thought, he began, then stopped, unsure. I wiped at my face with trembling fingers, hating the vulnerability I'd just laid bare but unable to turn it off. I thought we had something real, something safe. But lately, all I feel is distance. And now, I swallowed again, now I find things I can't explain. Condoms. In your bed. I don't know what to believe anymore. His jaw tightened, a flicker of anger or frustration passing through him. You don't trust me. No, I whispered, voice cracking. I don't. Not right now. Because I'm scared, James. I'm scared I'm losing you to someone else, and I'm scared I'm losing myself in the process. The room went quiet again, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence filled with shattered pieces and unanswered questions. After a while, James stood up and walked away, leaving me alone with my tears and a heart that felt more broken than ever. Lying in bed that night, my mind spun in a whirlpool of guilt and confusion. Had I pushed him away with my outburst? Was I wrong to confront him so fiercely? The shame curled in my stomach like a stone, the shame of needing more, wanting to be seen, and still feeling like I was asking too much. I thought about the condoms again, the symbol of a secret I wasn't ready to fully understand. I wondered if I'd been imagining the distance all along, or if it was real, unavoidable. But one thing was clear, I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. Not anymore. I just didn't know where to go from here. The days stretched into weeks, each one folding into the next with a quiet heaviness I couldn't shake. The apartment felt colder, though the heater hummed steadily, and the sunlight spilled through the windows as it always did. But the warmth between James and me had thinned, nearly evaporated, leaving behind a space so empty it echoed with all the things we weren't saying. I caught myself watching him more often, watching the way his shoulders slumped when he thought I wasn't looking, the way his eyes flickered with a sadness he tried to hide behind tired smiles. Sometimes, when he thought I was asleep, he'd stare out the window long after I'd closed my eyes. There was a distance in him, too, a quiet retreat, like he was holding something back from me just as fiercely as I was holding back from him. He was no villain. If anything, I was beginning to see the weight he carried, the silent battles no one knew about. The pressure of a demanding job that left him drained, the frustration of trying to fix something he couldn't put into words. I saw his pain, and it made the cold between us all the more unbearable. But I was hurting, too. I missed the way he used to hold me without hesitation, the way his touch could make the world fall away. I missed the little moments, the brush of his fingers as he passed by, the way his voice could still make me laugh even on the worst days. I missed us. Yet every time I reached out, verbally or emotionally, it felt like I was met with a wall. The conversations turned thin, our words more careful, more guarded. I felt guilty for wanting more, for needing him to meet me halfway when maybe he was as lost as I was. At night, lying awake, I wrestled with my longing and my fear. Was it possible to heal something so fractured? Could we rebuild the trust that felt like it had crumbled to dust? Or was I holding on to a ghost, to a version of us that no longer existed? I didn't have answers. But one thing was clear, I couldn't keep drifting in this gray space of uncertainty. I had to decide. Could I try again, risk the pain and disappointment for the hope of something real? Or was it time to let go, to walk away before the distance swallowed me whole? As dawn broke through the window, I made my choice, not because I was sure, but because I owed myself the chance to find out. I decided to speak first, breaking the fragile silence that had stretched between us for weeks. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast amber light across the living room, I found James curled up on the couch, exhaustion written in every line of his face. For a moment, I hesitated, the fear of rejection tightening my throat, then I sat beside him, close enough that our shoulders touched. "I don't want us to end like this," I whispered, voice trembling but honest. He looked at me, eyes tired but soft. "Neither do I," he said. "I've been scared, Lila. Scared of losing you, scared I don't know how to fix what's broken." The confession hung between us like fragile glass, vulnerable, real. We talked then, slowly, carefully, about what we'd both been feeling but afraid to say. I told him about the loneliness beneath the surface, the fear that I was no longer enough. He told me about his own battles, the pressure at work, the guilt he carried for the distance growing between us. We agreed to try again, not by pretending everything was perfect, but by setting new boundaries and making space for the emotional intimacy I needed before physical closeness. We promised to listen more, to ask rather than assume, to be patient with the messy, slow work of healing. That night, when I finally climbed into bed, James was already there. He reached for me quietly, pulling me into a hug that felt different this time, not a demand or a routine, but a gentle offering. His hand rested lightly on my back, grounding me, telling me without words that he was here, that he hadn't given up. I closed my eyes and let myself lean into that small, fragile hope, knowing the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but feeling, for the first time in a long time, that maybe we could find our way back together. It's strange how life teaches you lessons you never thought you'd need. I'm Lila, and if you'd asked me a year ago where I thought I'd be, I would have told you I had it all figured out: love, trust, desire. But the truth is, sometimes love isn't what you expect. Sometimes, it's messy and confusing and full of cracks that let the light in. When I first found those condoms in James's bed, it felt like the ground shifted beneath me. Betrayal, doubt, fear, they all tangled together and pulled me under. But what I didn't realize then was how much I was already drowning in the spaces between us, the silences, the cold touches, the distance that grew not overnight but slowly, almost imperceptibly. I learned that desire isn't just about physical connection. It's about feeling seen, heard, and safe enough to be vulnerable. Without that emotional intimacy, even the closest touches can feel like strangers reaching out through a glass wall. I realized that love demands honesty, not just with the other person, but with yourself. I had to face my own fears and insecurities before I could truly understand what I wanted and needed from James and from myself. Relationships are not static. They don't stay perfect or easy. They change, sometimes in ways that hurt, and sometimes in ways that heal. I learned that holding on isn't always about gripping tighter, it's about knowing when to let go, when to forgive, and when to fight for the fragile hope of something better. James and we chose to try again. We set new boundaries, talked through the hard stuff, and found small moments of tenderness that felt like promises of a future still worth believing in. But even if things hadn't worked out, I know now that I would have been okay. Because I found strength in the breaking, clarity in the confusion. I want you to know this: love is not perfect. It's human. It's beautiful and painful, hopeful and heartbreaking all at once. And the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. If you can learn to be patient with your own heart, to listen to its whispers beneath the noise, then you can face whatever comes, with grace, with courage, and with a fierce, unshakable tenderness. So whatever your story is, whatever cracks you're carrying, remember this: you are not alone, and you are more whole than you think. The light always finds its way through.